Your biggest source of stress is not your workload. It is not your debt, your schedule, or the people in your life who will not cooperate. It is the friction between your ego and the universe. The constant, low-grade exhaustion of pushing your personal will against something larger than you that has no intention of moving. We call it burnout in 2026. We call it purpose anxiety. We call it the feeling of doing everything right and still feeling like something is fundamentally off. And the spiritual tradition and the Stoic tradition say the same thing about it. The problem is not the circumstances. The problem is the posture. The ego has set itself against the logos, against the cosmic order that moves through all things, and it is losing. Marcus Aurelius sat on the throne of the Roman Empire, managed wars, plagues, and the weight of governing the known world, and returned every morning to the same question: am I aligned with the reason that governs this? Not am I winning? Not am I in control? Am I aligned? That question is the practice of the Crown Chakra, and it is the practice this video is built on. Drop this in the comments before you keep watching. I do not resist what is. I align with what is moving. My purpose is not separate from the world. It is part of it. Say it before you hear the rest. Here is what ego friction looks like in the specific landscape of 2026. You have a vision for your life, a direction, something you are building, something you are working toward. And the world keeps arriving with different instructions. The economy shifts, the relationships change. The thing you planned for 6 months does not land the way you expected. And instead of adjusting, the ego doubles down. It grips harder. It tells you that if you push more, strategize more, want it more intensely, the universe will eventually agree with you. That doubling down is the source of the exhaustion, not the work, the resistance. The Stoics identified this as one of the primary causes of human suffering. Epictetus named it clearly. We suffer not from what happens, but from our insistence that what happens should be different from what it is. Marcus Aurelius wrote about it as friction against the logos, the rational principle that orders all things, the reason that moves through nature, through history, through the structure of reality itself. The Crown Chakra, Sahasrara, the seventh and highest energy center, sits at the crown of the head. In Sanskrit, it means the thousand-petaled lotus. It is associated with pure consciousness, with the dissolution of the individual self into something larger, with the direct experience of connection to universal awareness. When it is open and clear, you do not feel separate from life. You feel like a participant in it. Your purpose does not feel like something you are forcing into existence against resistance. It feels like something that was always already there, waiting for you to stop fighting long enough to recognize it. When it is blocked, you feel the opposite. Isolated, cut off, certain that the universe is indifferent to you at best and working against you at worst. That certainty is not the truth. It is the ego's story about what happens when its will meets a boundary. In 2026, that boundary shows up everywhere. Algorithms that favor what you did last month over what you are doing now. Economic uncertainty that makes long-range planning feel absurd. A global information environment so saturated that the clearest signal you can send gets buried in noise. The ego looks at all of that and calls it opposition. The Crown Chakra looks at all of it and calls it the landscape. And the Stoic philosopher looks at all of it and asks, what is the appropriate action here, given what actually is? That question changes everything. Marcus Aurelius used the word logos to describe the rational principle that permeates all of existence. It is not a god in the personal sense. It is not something that can be petitioned or bargained with. It is the reason in things, the order beneath the surface of apparent chaos, the principle by which seasons turn, and empires rise and fall, and human beings grow and decay, and return to the elements they came from. He wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." And elsewhere, "What injures the hive injures the bee." Both statements point to the same understanding. You are not separate from the whole. What you do reverberates through the interconnected structure of reality. And the best thing you can do with your individual life is align it with the direction of that whole, rather than set it in opposition. The Stoics called this sympatheia, the doctrine that all things in the universe are interconnected. that what happens in one part affects every other part. The Crown Chakra calls it oneness, different languages, the same perception. And here is the practical implication of that perception. If you are part of the whole, then your purpose is not something you have to manufacture in isolation and then impose on the world. Your purpose is something you discover by paying attention to where your particular capacities meet the actual needs of the actual world in front of you. Not the world you planned for, not the world from 3 years ago, the world as it is now. Marcus Aurelius also wrote, "The object of life is not to be on the side of the majority, but to escape finding oneself in the ranks of the insane." He was not talking about rebellion. He was talking about clarity. The clarity of someone who has stopped fighting the logos long enough to see what it is actually doing, and then aligning with that. That alignment is what the open crown chakra feels like. Not bliss, not transcendence in a sense of floating above the world. Clarity. Groundedness in something much larger than personal will. The sensation that your effort is not fighting upstream, but moving with the current of something that knows where it is going. Here is the thing that gets misunderstood about this. Aligning with the logos does not mean becoming passive. It does not mean giving up ambition or surrendering your will to whatever happens. The Stoics were not passive. Marcus Aurelius led armies. Epictetus taught with relentless urgency. But their will was pointed in a specific direction, toward their duty, their role in the interconnected whole, their kathekon, the appropriate action for who and where they were. The crown chakra at its highest expression is not the absence of self. It is the self that has become clear enough about its place in the whole to act from that place rather than from ego friction. The thousand-petaled lotus is not a symbol of emptiness. It is a symbol of full, integrated awareness that holds the individual and the universal simultaneously. What this looks like practically is that you stop spending energy on two things. First, forcing outcomes that the present moment is not structured to hold. Second, resisting realities that the logos has already moved into place. Both of those expenditures are the same waste. They are the ego arguing with what is. What you do with that recovered energy is the practice. You direct it toward your duty, your specific role, the place where your capabilities and the world's actual needs intersect. And you do that without the friction of meeting the outcome to arrive on your timeline, in your preferred form, with your specific parameters. That is not giving up. That is the most efficient form of ambition that exists. This is a 5-minute daily writing practice. Do it in the morning, before you engage with the day's demands. Step 1. Name the friction. Write down the thing in your life right now that you are pushing hardest against. The situation that generates the most resistance, the most mental noise, the most feeling of things not cooperating. 1 sentence. Be specific. Step 2. Separate the fact from the story. Underneath that sentence, write what actually happened. Not your interpretation. Not what it means about your future. The plain fact. The bare description from the objective reality, not from your fear. Step 3. The logos question. Ask this. What is this situation actually asking of me if I stop fighting it long enough to listen? Not what do I want it to be asking. What is it actually asking? What does the appropriate action look like if I assume the logos is rational and this is not opposition, but information? Step 4. The duty statement. Write 1 sentence beginning with, "My role in this is." Not my goal, not my desired outcome. My role. What is the part this situation is calling you to play, based on who you actually are and what you are actually capable of right now? That is crown chakra practice. That is stoic duty. That is the point where Sahasrara and the logos meet. In the specific, grounded, present tense action of a person who has stopped fighting the universe and started asking what it needs from them. Drop this in the comments. My purpose is not something I force into the world. It is something I discover by aligning with it. The ego will always want to be the exception. It will want to be the one that wins on its own terms, by its own timeline, according to its own plan. And sometimes that drive produces real things. But over time, the friction costs more than the gains. Marcus Aurelius spent 30 years governing the most complex system the ancient world had ever produced. And his private notes, the ones he never intended anyone to read, return again and again to the same practice. Align with the logos. Act from duty. Stop adding things to what is. Sahasrara is not a destination. It is not something you achieve after the lower chakras are fixed. A decision to stop experiencing your purpose as a battle between your will and the universe, and start experiencing it as a collaboration. Your purpose is not separate from the world. It is part of it. And the moment you stop fighting that, you will feel exactly how much energy you have been spending on a war that was never yours to win. The Awakened Stoic, ancient discipline, awakened energy. Your